Alright everyone, welcome to the Conscious Resistance live episode number 86, I think it was. What's up everyone, my name is Derrick Broze. Good to see you guys again. I hope you're all doing well. It is Friday, November 2nd, and well, lots going on in the world, and I haven't done an episode, a live episode of the Conscious Resistance Live in a few months because I've been on the road for my tour, the Liberate Your Mind tour. 2018, traveling all around the U.S., visiting people, talking about agorism, talking about the pyramid of power, and a lot of different exciting topics that hopefully you guys have been following our work and keeping up with. But before we get into everything, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's tuned in. If you can hear me okay, please give me a thumbs up, a heart, or something. Let me know you can hear me all right. And go ahead and share this out if you don't mind. Share this out a few places. I'm going to spend about 20-25 minutes with you guys tonight, and then I'm going out for the evening to enjoy myself. But first I wanted to share some important information with you guys. So yeah, let me know you can hear me okay, and if you don't mind sharing it, please do that, and then comment below, let people know where you're listening from, because if you're tuned in, say from Houston, well, I might see you there and say, hey look, there's somebody else in my city, maybe I need to connect with them, maybe I need to plug in with them, and maybe we need to get organized, right? So go ahead and do that. Comment below, let people know where you're listening from. I'm also going to post a website right now called freedomcells.org. If you're out there and you are recognizing the increasing censorship that is taking place against independent and alternative media, and you don't want to support Facebook and these types of websites, check out our website, freedomcells.org, CELLS.org, where you can meet all kinds of people just like yourself who are interested in health, spiritual health, mental health, physical health, interested in organic food, community gardening, alternative currencies, skill shares, barter networks. These type of people join freedomcells.org. You can find people within 5 miles of you, 10 miles, and 50 miles of you, and get connected. And some of you may have noticed or may have seen on our Facebook page. If not, I'll let you know. By the end of this year, within the next 60 days, we will no longer be posting new content to the Conscious Resistance on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or Google. We will only be posting on our website, on the Freedom Cells website, on Minds.com, on MeWe, on BitChute, and a couple other platforms. And we're going to talk about that tonight as well. Our main topics that I want to cover with you in the next 20 minutes or so are Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to talk a little bit about voting in the midterm elections. We're going to talk about how that all relates to, again, I mentioned the attack on independent media and what the latest is with that situation. We'll talk a little bit about that. And what I've noticed is going on, which is basically there's an attack coming globally, not just in the United States, but after all sorts of what they're calling fake news. So we'll get into that. We'll also talk briefly about 5G, and then if we have time, we'll talk for a moment about WikiLeaks. So I got a lot of information I want to cover, and if you have any comments or anything to leave below, please feel free, and I will try to read those by the end of the show. And thanks again. If you're just getting this, my name is Derrick Broze, and you're watching the Conscious Resistance Live, number 86. And looks like we got a lot of good friends listening from all over the place. Alright, well, let's get into it. So the first story I mentioned that I wanted to cover is going to be, let's see if this works. Alright, there we go. let's go onto the website, theconsciousresistance.com. Bookmark this site. As I said, this is how you can keep up with all of our work. And if you had, then you would see that we just put out a brand new documentary called Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, which is right here. You can visit at theconsciousresistance.com. You can see this on BitChute. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on our Facebook channel as well, where it's getting quite a bit of traction just in the last 24 hours or so as we put it out there. But that right there, that link you're looking at, is my complete script. That's everything I say in the documentary, including all the links. So I'll look down at this. You can see everything I mentioned in there, the documents, the reports, and even the couple of sections in here didn't make it into the documentary. And I might be doing a follow-up video just to kind of talk about this. But yes, if you don't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein, he is a billionaire registered sex offender who's connected to the Clintons and the Trumps, and he's connected to all kinds of wealthy and powerful people, and he has been getting away with crime and some pretty horrible things for quite some time, and it's about time people do something about it. So that's why I titled it Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, because that's our goal, is to get Jeffrey Epstein to be exposed. At the least, if we can't get him in court where he's actually going to face further crime, further charges for his crime, at least get people to recognize who he is. And I don't advocate violence against anybody, but I do think that this type of person who has been connected to the molestation of at least 40 young girls, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and basically this dude gets away with it because of his connections, and these people who helped him get away with it are still out there, still in power, including the Trump administration. And that's a scary thing, and I'm not sure most people realize that. So if you haven't heard anything about this, please do check that out. This documentary is 25 minutes long, and I want to say shout out to Jeremy Martin, who is a good friend of mine. He's based in the UK. He helped us complete that documentary. I wrote it, I recorded the audio, he did all the editing, the video production and everything, and did a great job. So please do check out that, as it's going to be the beginning of a series of documentaries that we'll be getting into. And in beginning this next week, I'm actually going to start doing video coverage of my next investigation, which looks into the network of people who help individuals like Jeffrey Epstein get access to young children. How do they do that? They don't do that on their own. He's not going out into the streets and finding these kids, but it seems that there's a network of people helping do this. And all I'll say for now is it focuses on a group called the Finders, and we're going to talk about that very soon. I'm going to start going public with that information. I will post that link to you guys real quick if you're watching live right now, and if you're watching later from wherever, the links will be posted in the video below. So that's Jeffrey Epstein and our latest documentary. You can see this now is another article that I put together, article and a video. They go together, called 5 Tips for Voters from a Non-Voter, or a Non-Voter's Guide to Voting. And the elections are just a couple of days away here in the United States, and there's been a lot of elections recently in Brazil. There's been elections in Sweden. I've been reading about elections all over the world, and we're going to get into in a moment one of the commonalities between all of these different elections that the authorities are saying. But for now, I want to say that if you followed any of my work, you know that I am not a voter. I do not participate in the electoral political system here in the United States, but I'm not an apathetic, lazy, pothead bum person that doesn't care about what's going on in the world. It's quite the opposite of what I'm about and what I'm doing, right? And so I think that there's a confusion sometimes, and people just, we buy into these false dichotomies. I don't think most of us have ever seen or heard the idea that you can actually be active in your community, you can care about what's going on in the world around you, and yet choose to opt out of the political system and say, hey, that's not the avenue I want to participate in, that's not the way I want to take, that's not the method that I'm going to get involved, right? Some people just, I don't know, they haven't been exposed to that, or just automatically make this assumption that, like, okay, you are lazy, apathetic, you're the scum of the earth. I mean, people say some really rude things when you tell them you don't vote, and there's a lot of shaming going on in this electoral season. So that's what I wanted to just basically give a couple of tips from somebody who doesn't vote to my friends who choose to vote that might be more effective. And I'll just go over these briefly, and you can read this essay or watch the video if you choose to. And also has links to more of my thoughts on this, because I'm not going to get into this and make this whole segment about my beliefs on voting, but I will say that I do think there are much more effective ways to be involved in your community that don't have to involve empowering politicians and giving them your time and your energy. And I think it's been proven over and over again. And I actually have a plan and have ideas, and this is what my activism and my philosophical work talks about. So I'm not just some lazy bum sitting at home non-voting. I know those people exist, but you know, I think we have to think more critically about this. Let's say that. So my 5 tips to you, those of you who do vote. Number 1, be an educated voter. Number 2, don't vote straight ticket. Number 3, don't compromise. Number 4, stop shaming people. And number 5, which is the most important one, vote with your actions. And this is all about just getting involved in your local community, the school board, the municipality, the city council, if you want to keep it political, or get involved in community gardens, you know, community farmers markets. Get involved in creating or attending Skillshares, free schools, community tool and book sharing, community neighborhood watches. I mean, just so many different ways to get plugged in to actually start building relationships and bonds in your community, which to some people they hear that and they're like, hey, that's not going to fix the world, right? That's not going to solve all the problems I see. And you're right, that won't necessarily. It's definitely not in a day, right? It's going to take time. But if you do not have relationships with the people that live closest to you and have not built up a sense of community, which I think many of us would agree has been taken or you know, disappeared from most of our lives these days, if you don't get that connection going on, you don't really have those relationships, then you're going to leave yourself in a position where maybe an emergency comes along, some sort of shit hits the fan scenario, and you don't know anybody around you, and you're going to have to fend for yourself instead of having a freedom cell, like I was talking about earlier on freedomcells.org, and a group of people that you can plug in together and have supplies prepared and have food and have thought ahead. And really, this is how all of our ancestors survived to get us to where we are now. They thought ahead. They planned for the future in case you had a hard winter, in case you had a hurricane, in case you had a drought or whatever it may be. You know, it doesn't have to be that you're waiting for the zombie apocalypse. This is just smart thinking. So my point is, there's so many other ways to get involved that don't have to involve pushing a ballot, being in a ballot box or pushing a button, things like that. And every single one of the arguments you might be thinking of, like right now, saying, but it only takes 5 minutes, I address that in this piece. So please do check out that link as well, and I will post that to those of you who are watching this in the chat right now to read for yourself. Because my goal here is not to attack voters and in defense of non-voters. Believe me, as a non-voter, we get attacked plenty of times, and as I said, we get shamed plenty of times when people basically tell us that it's wrong to choose not to participate, because to say that you don't want to participate in evil, just to say that that's not something you want to be involved in. Like, people want to shame you for that. That people want to make you feel guilty, which is insane to me. And that's why I said don't compromise, because I believe in having principles, right? And maintaining some sense of principles involves not compromising on your core beliefs. The problem that I see in much of our world is that there are people walking around every day that don't really understand what their principles are, what really guide them, what makes them tick, and where their moral compass points. And so because of that, they are able to be manipulated by external factors, be that politicians, propaganda, what have you, because they're not rooted in themselves and they don't know themselves. So the goal of this, then, my goal is to promote this idea that we have to be more connected to ourselves, more in tune with our communities, and we don't need to be participating in systems that go against our values. Like, I want to create a future that is in line with the things I believe. I believe it's wrong to use forced violence and coercion against people, whether through my own hands or through a government. But I simply cannot participate in governmental systems, and I know other people are going to have different ways to look at this, even other people who have a lot of similar views as me. Some will say, hey, well, I'm going to vote because it's a defensive measure. And that's on you. But ultimately, I know that I can spend my energy promoting ideas like agorism and counter-economics and helping people look at decentralized technology and decentralized solutions that don't involve participating in governmental or corporate systems, and instead involve building community power and people power. And ultimately, that is the way that I believe we're going to create the better world. Not by continuing to bang our head against the wall and play the same game over and over. A really big inspiration on me, John Trudell, said, you don't change things by working within the confines of what the oppressors have given you, within the bounds of the oppressors. You don't win by playing their game. You get up and stop playing the game altogether. You know, they say that anything within the boundaries of this game is acceptable. You can protest, you can do sit-ins, you can do marches because they're happy to beat you or club you or pepper spray you or arrest you. You can, you know, try to be violent and they'll label you a terrorist and kill you. You can even run for office and try to play the game. They're happy if you do all these things. But the moment you say, hey, what if I just stop playing this whole game together and build something different? And what if I stop allowing myself to participate in the lesser of any evil and instead participate in actions and organizations with other individuals that actually represent my values and my principles and choose to not compromise on that? That's what I'm trying to do. That's what more and more people are trying to do, is more and more people wake up around the world and recognize that we are not going to see the world we want to see, a world that is just, a world that is more free and liberated mentally, physically, and spiritually, if we continue to support and participate in systems that go against those core values. It's just not going to happen. You have to think in a new paradigm and create in a new way in order to get new results. That's the only way we're going to see something different. So I believe in the ideas of agorism and counter-economics. I believe in trying to change the system without, you know, outside of it, not giving up, not being apathetic, but opting out of it emotionally, spiritually, taking your time, your money, and your energy out of the banks. Stop feeding the corporations that are disempowering us. Stop paying taxes whenever possible. Avoid, you know, work as much outside of the system, outside of the white market and the gray and black market as possible, and really create something better. So that's kind of what I'm promoting and getting into. Now let's move on now. Sorry for that long-winded rant. I hope that something in there was informative. The next thing I want to mention now relates to this story here. I haven't even put this video out. What you're looking at here, this is on BitChute. If you haven't heard of BitChute, this is an alternative to YouTube that I'm on. Right now I've only got 44 subscribers. I'd love to get the 10,000 subscribers I have on YouTube or the 40,000 subscribers we have on Facebook to come join me on BitChute. BitChute is an alternative to YouTube that does not censor you, and you know, it's not connected to all the same people and Google and all that stuff. And so I've got a video here that's not out anywhere else except for on BitChute. Facebook and WhatsApp are shutting down fake news accounts, quote unquote fake news accounts from around the world. And this relates to an ongoing story. This video will be available to those who are on my Patreon account if you want to sign up to join for monthly support to help us make more documentaries like bringing down Jeffrey Epstein, or you can just wait till Monday and it'll be made public. But in this video I look at several different articles. I can pull up a few of them here and show how it's not just in the United States, where we had a couple weeks ago where all the independent media accounts were purged because of, you know, what do they say, inauthentic behavior and spam, and were Russian bots and all this kind of stuff. And they took down all the biggest independent media pages like Anti-Media, Free Thought Project, and they've been targeting others and throttling traffic for a while. And we know that Facebook has partnered with groups like the Atlantic Council, which is tied to the Western military-industrial complex, like all the NATO countries, and it's funded by the U.S. Department of Defense, the Navy, the Army. I mean, this is really just like, this group is, Facebook is directly working with the U.S. government in this context. And we also saw now Facebook purging accounts in Brazil before their election that just took place. Now, I'm not trying to take sides one way or another about the politicians, but my guess is that all these accounts, this 100,000 accounts that they shut down on WhatsApp, because Facebook owns WhatsApp, in case you didn't know that, but WhatsApp is very popular in Brazil, and they shut down 100,000 accounts that, again, they said were spam, fake accounts. My guess is some of these were independent alternative media sites that got deleted, just like in the U.S. And then I found evidence of this, them saying that alternative media was affecting a lot of people's opinions in Sweden, and they were trying to figure out how to get rid of those accounts. And then India saying they're trying to shut down accounts on WhatsApp because hoaxes are spreading that are leading to lynchings. And so just all these different ways, some around the election, some just because they're trying to stop, you know, fake hoaxes and information like that from spreading. They're using this as ways to start purging people from Facebook and WhatsApp. And as I've said before, all of this is leading to the U.S. election, where the governments are going to tell us that, you know, Russia or China interfered with the election, and they're going to use that as an excuse to get all you people, and some of you are already falling for it, unfortunately, to call for putting these social media companies in the hands of the U.S. government or any governments around the world as public utilities. And I think that's a very dangerous move. So I would not advise that. Once you start hearing the calls for making them public utilities, Facebook, Google, and these things, please recognize that that's a bad move, and don't fall for it. That's my take on that situation. Maybe you might have a different take. We'll see. We'll see how things pan out, right? But if you really study that and you see that this is happening all around the world, and I offer all these links, like I said, this video will be out on Monday on BitChute and on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else. It's worth looking into, though, to really understand what's going on behind the scenes and to see where these people are pushing us and what the effort is all about, right? I think it's worth your time to look into that. And yeah, I think I see a couple of questions. I'm going to slow down for a second and answer one of these questions before I talk about 5G. Why not do both? Voting only takes a little time. Stop the fascists and then do your thing with like minds. Okay, well, first on Cole Meechan, voting doesn't stop fascists. I'm sorry to say. That's not a very... I mean, if that's your attempt to stop fascists, then I don't know, man. I think you're not going to end up very well. But voting doesn't, like I said in there, read the piece I wrote, man. Please scroll up a little bit and read the piece I wrote, because I addressed that argument. People say voting only takes 5 minutes. Why don't you do that? Well, voting shouldn't take only 5 minutes. It should take a lot more than 5 minutes if you're actually doing it right, if you're actually trying to educate yourself about the ballots, the issues, and the people that are running, not just voting straight ticket, like they say, actually learning about it. It's going to take more than 5 minutes. It's going to take maybe a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of months to actually educate yourself about these things and reflect on these systems and think about what you really care about and if anybody there aligns with your values. And still then, if you're really trying to be principled, you might ultimately decide you shouldn't vote because nobody does align with your beliefs. I'm not going to settle. I'm sorry, guys. And until you guys are really willing to say enough is enough, we're going to keep having more of these same problems. I mean, you're dooming the future, the 7 generations and beyond, by choosing to play this game. I'm just going to be blunt. You're dooming the future children and your grandchildren by choosing to play this game over and over. And instead of trying to put your energy into decentralized systems, you notice decentralization taking over in the sense of people talking about decentralized social media and decentralized internet, and decentralization in the way that apps have revolutionized our world, and now we have decentralized apps, what people call dApps. But it started with Uber and Airbnb and all these different ways that are, you don't need to rely on centralized systems. And sooner or later, people are going to realize that we need to apply the idea to government. And government and the idea of governance will get further decentralized and localized, and these communities will have more power, will get more say over what kind of community we want to live in, what world we want to live in, without controlling everybody, but at the same time generally respecting everybody's freedom to live as they please as long as they're not harming anybody else. Essentially the golden rule, respecting self-ownership, the non-aggression principle, these kinds of ideas. So you're not going to get the better world you're looking for if that's your goal, if you keep playing the same game. But yes, technically you could do both things, right? Even if you take actual time and learn about it. But my whole point here is do both. And I say this in the article, so please, so I don't have to repeat myself, go read the article, go read the essay. But I'll say it here. Plant a seed, or go get involved in a community garden, or go get involved in some activist group, or go get involved in some way in your community. I mean, really, take it serious. Go start volunteering on a weekly basis at a community garden or something on the same day you go vote. And track your progress and see which of these actions has brought you more value after a couple of months or a couple of years. Voting for some politician or putting time into your community and the connections you make and the relationships that come from that. I guarantee you will find a lot of fruit from getting involved in your community, and probably nothing but just disappointment and silliness, feeling silly if you put your energy into the political system. Alright, so I'm going a little long now, and I got 2 more stories I'm going to cover, so I'm going to move on here. Some of you may have seen that recently I've been going to Houston City Council to educate the City Council about 5G, 5th generation cellular technology. I don't have the time right now to explain all of it, but if you see this link that I'm looking at here, and I'll post it in a minute, it links to everything that you need to know. Search 5G on our website. Just look at the front page. This is, the last couple weeks I've been really getting into this information. And you will see what the deal is with 5G. But essentially it's the coming, very fastly coming next generation of cellular technology that's going to allow the Internet of Things, this tens and thousands of interconnected devices, smart houses, smart meters, smartphones, smart cars, all the different devices that are tens and thousands that potentially could cause health risks as well as further loss of privacy. And Houston, where I live, is one of the cities racing forward to have this implemented. And because of that, I decided to start getting involved in more local activism, putting my energy here. And basically, I realized that Houston is ground zero for 5G. Houston is this place that they're rolling it out very quickly. The city is rushing forward to be the first city, so I decided to go to City Council a couple weeks ago. That video can be seen on our front page. And this is the second visit. I won't play it right now because I want to get going, go out and have some fun and enjoy myself tonight, but I want to share this with you. And then I want to let you know that I actually was featured on the local news. I'm waiting for it to get posted online, but I got interviewed by Isaiah Carey, who's a local, one of the sort of investigative journalists here in Houston. He occasionally does investigative work. Isaiah Carey, Isaiah Factor Uncensored is his show. And I was able to go on his show and talk about 5G and mention the censorship that's taking place, mention the companies involved, mention so many different important aspects, the surveillance, the health. So look out for that in the coming days. But I also am going to be launching a email blast and phone blast campaign looking for support from you guys to get out there and to get people to be educated about this. I'm going to start flooding the city of Houston, and I've done this before, flooding the city of Houston with emails and phone calls, and I need your help to do that, because when that happens, they will respond. And I think that if I can really get some resistance and some slow down, the pace here in Houston, then as being the fourth largest city in the country, it could potentially affect other cities. So if you're in a smaller city, if you're somewhere else and you don't have the resources or the time to get active where you're at, find the time if you can, but if not, please make some phone calls and emails for me whenever it comes time. Follow our page for the next couple weeks and you'll see updates on that, or email me at derrick@theconsciousresistance.com to get involved in that effort. But as of yet, just in the last month, I visited City Council 2 times, and I got videos from both of that, which have been seen 10,000s of times by people. Each video has got over 10,000 views via Facebook and YouTube and other places. It's probably nearly 30,000 views, which is pretty good for a City Council video. I've been able to directly question the City of Houston mayor about it and the CEO of Verizon about this. You can see these videos on our channels all over the internet and our website. And now I've been on local news talking about it. So far it's been a successful campaign. The next step is to go back to City Council with a little bit more information. I'm working on getting an oncologist from MD Anderson here in Houston to come talk in City Council. We've got movement going and people are supportive, but I'm going to need your support. So if you're interested in learning more about 5G, go to theconsciousresistance.com, or Damon, if you're there, post some of the articles about 5G in the comments if you can. And yeah, so that's all I got on the 5G thing, but thank you to everybody who's been real supportive of that. You guys have been awesome with just being supportive. Last story of the night, and this is just, we have to take a moment to say thanks and appreciate and remember the different people that put their lives on the line and make an effort to change the world, right? So some of you may remember a couple years back now, I think it started in 2017, maybe 2016, WikiLeaks released what were known as the Vault 7 leaks, and this showed from the CIA's Vault 7, it showed all kinds of different things. The Vault 7 leaks showed us that the CIA, it confirmed what we already knew, that the CIA can remotely hack cars, and like some people believe Michael Hastings, journalist, was killed by the CIA or some agency using this kind of technology. But Vault 7 came with so much interesting technology, and we'll just take a look here. You can see this is a report from Steemit from a user called Rebel Scum, and this is really great. Like, pretty much if you want to learn about Vault 7 and all the different tools in here that the government has, I mean, really this just shows you how they are already infected in the computer systems when you buy them, and just how deep it goes and how nearly impossible it is to get away from the technology that they have available. If you've never heard of this, please do check out this link. I'll post that for you. But so Vault 7 was leaked to WikiLeaks, and now we have the former CIA employee who's been accused of leaking that information. He's been sent to prison now, and his name is Josh Schultz. He's a former CIA employee who's accused of leaking Vault 7 files to WikiLeaks. He claims that he's been put into solitary confinement and been mistreated at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. He says officials will not allow him to contact his attorney. He was charged on June 18th with 13 offenses that include allegedly violating the Espionage Act, stealing classified information from the CIA, and supposedly a charge involving child pornography. Now, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know the evidence, but I know sometimes people who find information, CIA and other agencies, try to discredit them and badmouth them. Or maybe he was involved in something and they decided to release it, or maybe it's just not connected. Either way, this guy allegedly leaked the files that we know as Vault 7, and now he's doing time. So, I mean, while the rest of maybe some of us journalists and nerds like myself, researchers, pore over these documents. Vault 7, which was released by WikiLeaks in 2017, including over 8,000 files from the CIA's Center for Cyber Intelligence. Some of us, we're nerds for this kind of stuff, and we understand the importance of understanding the tools that these agencies have. But the average person just moves on with their life, and maybe they hear about it once or twice, and they go on. And now this guy who leaked it to the world is in prison, and apparently dealing with solitary confinement. And sure, some of you out there might be crazy and say, this guy deserves it, he leaked government documents. I'm not buying it. I believe and will continue to support and fight for whistleblowers always, because without whistleblowers, we'll never know the truth of what's going on in different agencies, because there's an incredible amount of secrecy that exists. And if you don't know that, then you got to start over. Go to theconsciousresistance.com, check out our About page, look at the video essays and the articles we have there to get started to understand what we're promoting here, and look at our new documentaries, including The Modern Surveillance State and our most recent documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, as I mentioned, follow us at theconsciousresistance.com, bookmark our site, go down to the very bottom of the website, scroll down, and there's a newsletter. You can sign up. I'm sending out weekly newsletters. I'll be sending out a newsletter tomorrow, so if you want to get that, sign up tonight and you'll get that by tomorrow or in the following weeks. I will be home for the remainder of the year. I will not be doing any more talks for the rest of this year, but I will be speaking at Anarchapulco. I can announce now I'm officially on the main stage at Anarchapulco, which is an amazing health and wellness, anarchist, philosophical, peaceful parenting festival, conference, fun time on the beaches of Mexico in February. So if you've never heard of that, check it out. And I'll also be speaking immediately after that at Envision Festival in Costa Rica. This is all in February. This is several months away, but you can get some discounted tickets if you want to get them through me. And yeah, hit me up if you're interested in that. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for your time and your attention. I'll go over some of these questions later and see if there's anything I need to respond to. I might come back and comment to you guys. I appreciate everybody who's listening. Please follow all the links that we've posted and share this out to your friends. Even if you don't see it live, I hope that this information, this knowledge is something that you can use. Don't take it as fear. Don't take it as being overwhelmed. Just take it as something you can empower yourself with and use in some way. Now that you have this extra knowledge, if it's something you didn't know before, or these thoughts about voting, these thoughts about getting involved in different ways, just take them in and use them for what they're worth. If they don't mean anything to you, that's fine. But I think if we ultimately pursue what we know is right in our hearts and stop compromising ourselves and stop participating in systems that are evil or even lesser of evils, then we will start to see real change. And until we're willing to do that, until we're actually willing to change our actions, and even with I just mentioned Anarchapulco and Envision, not just go to Anarchapulco and Envision and have a fun time and party and meet other crazy, like-minded, black sheep like many of us, but to actually change the way you live your life and think about where you get your food from, what type of food you eat, and where you spend your money, and what kind of money you use, and where you're getting educated, and what systems you're supporting, and what type of social media you're using, and what type of content you're putting in your brain, and what you're putting in your spirit, and all this important information. This is about becoming self-aware in every single way from a holistic perspective, and then using that knowledge to opt out of the systems that don't align with our values to create a better world. Anything less of that, and we're only going to continue to play this game over and over and end up in a cycle. And voting will not fix that. I apologize to you who maybe are not ready to accept that, but that's the reality. Sooner or later, you might realize it. Hopefully you won't spend the rest of your life trying to bang your head against a wall, because I'm sure you know the definition of insanity is doing something over and over and expecting different results. Let's opt for something different. Let's choose systems that reflect our values. Let's build a better world today by choosing something different for the 7 generations and beyond. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll try to do this again on a weekly basis now that I'm home, and maybe I can finally get to episode 100. We're at episode 86 after 5 years. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys for following, subscribing, supporting anybody who supports on Patreon. You guys are amazing. Stay tuned for more information at our next upcoming documentary, and if you haven't seen Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, watch that as soon as this is over. Thank you guys. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.